Hello everyone, so I'm just doing this video today to give you a little bit more information about the time frames in numerology. So I've just done videos on your personal year and the personal month and the personal day. Now I got a message from someone talking about what about if I have an 11 personal day, and you know, some numerologists go on that piece, especially when it comes to the personal day. But when it comes to pinnacles and the personal year and the personal month, it's very much about the 9-point cycle, and there are no master numbers in it. When it comes to the personal day, you can see more of the detail, and some numerologists really focus on whether it's a day 2 or a day 11, which is seen as the 2 and the 11. Apart from the 11 being more energetic and more higher level, they're a very similar energy, and you will have similar things happen to you on that day. Maybe you'll have more nervous energy when it's an 11 day for you. But I mostly run, because that's how numerology time frames run, is on 9-year epicycles. Now pinnacles, which are the most long range, work in 9-year epicycles. And apart from the first epicycle, which is about between 28 and 30 years old, or 27, 26 and 30 years old, the subsequent pinnacles after that are all 9 years, and personal months tend to go in 9 years. So I don't tend to use master numbers so much. So in answer to your question, when it comes to a personal month, it runs in 9 epicycles, so only 1 to 9, and then so 1 to 9, then back to 1 again. You can on the personal day have an 11-2 day or a 22-4 day. That is possible for you to do. Takes a little bit more working out, but the energy is quite similar when it comes to what happens to you during that day. Okay, so I won't keep gabbling on about that information any longer, but the person who sent me a message asking that question, I couldn't respond to you. I don't know why your message didn't come up on my video. So I'm hoping you watch this video and that's a satisfactory answer. That in days I might use master numbers, but not all that often. But when it comes to pinnacles, years and months, I stay within the 9-year epicycle. Right, so moving on. This is the most long range. I'm going to tell you all about pinnacles. So to give you some perspective, the pinnacles run through your whole life, and the pinnacles are split into 4 sections. So your life is split into 4 sections. This is your whole life, and only split into 4. So this is the most long range. And then it breaks down into your personal year, which breaks down into your personal months, personal days. Okay, so what I'm going to talk to you about today is the most long range of them all. Okay, and it's your pinnacles. So the pinnacles reveal the general conditions over that, if it's your first pinnacle, 27 to 30 year period, or if it's the second, third or fourth pinnacle in the 9 years. So it's very long range. So it's like the watered down conditions that you're going to feel throughout the whole of that period. They describe the atmosphere, the possible environment, and the essential challenges you're going to be faced with in that time period. You can also look back in earlier pinnacles if you haven't already, and develop and understand what was going on and why. I found that it was such an aha moment for me, looking at my pinnacles and realizing, oh my goodness, yeah. And the time changes were very, very, very similar. It merges in and merges out. When you have a change in your pinnacles, which I'm about to show you in a moment, it sort of eases in slowly and eases out slowly, or sometimes it's something big that happens. So when you're changing pinnacles, going from one pinnacle to another, it won't necessarily be a jolt of a change. It might merge, it might be slow. So you're certainly going to notice the difference when you change from one pinnacle to the other. And sometimes it's hard hitting and you really notice, and sometimes it's slow coming and you just merge into your next pinnacle. So you can also look back at earlier times like I did, because, you know, when I was younger, I wasn't studying numerology. So right back in my younger years, I was like, goodness, yeah, That was why I was like I was at that time, and the things I was interested in, it fitted so amazingly with everything in my life. Each number brings that unique vibration which influences how you travel through the pinnacle years of your life. Okay, so this is the pinnacle boundaries. So if you're a life path 1, your pinnacle 1 ends at 35 years, and then so your whole pinnacle 1 is from 0 to 35 years. So all your childhood, all the way up to 35. So that is a big pinnacle. And then your pinnacles after that become shorter. So they're 9 years. And then after pinnacle 4, it's long again, because it stays that pinnacle for as long as you are residing on this earth. And it's the same for all the life paths. So life path 2 and 11 are both 0 to 34. As you can see through the chart, you can pause. I don't want to talk through each one because you can see it. So if you want to spend a bit more time having a look at these and writing down your age barriers for your life path or your pinnacle lines for each one, just pause this video. Okay, so that's where the barriers are for each pinnacle to start and finish. So calculating your pinnacles. So you calculate your pinnacles using the elements of your full date of birth. So to calculate pinnacle 1, it's the day plus the month. Now remember, we're always reducing right down past the master numbers down to single numbers all the time. We don't look at master numbers here. We take it all the way down to the single figures. So it's the day reduced right down to a single figure, the month reduced right down to a single figure, then added together. And then if those two added together gives you a double number, you add those together until you get that single figure. It must always be a single figure. So for pinnacle 1, you add the day reduced down plus the month. Pinnacle 2, you add your day reduced down plus the year. And pinnacle 3 is pinnacle 1 plus pinnacle 2. Remember, if you get a double answer, add them together until you get to that single digit. And then pinnacle 4, it's adding the month reduced down plus the year reduced down. Here's an example. So a full date of birth, 29th of the 10th, 1975. Okay, so for this birthday, pinnacle 1 is going to be 0 to 29 years as it per the chart. So it's the day plus the month. So the day, if you add 2 and 9 together, you get 11. Add 1 and 1, you get 2. Okay. The 10, 1 and 0. And then you get to a 1. So you add 2 and 1. So this person's pinnacle 1 is a 3. Pinnacle 2, you're adding the day reduced down, which is 2. And the year, 1975, comes to 22, which is a master year. But that reduces down to a 4. So 2 plus 4. So pinnacle 2 is a 6 for this person. And then adding together the 3 and the 6 for pinnacle 3, the third pinnacle is a 9. Pinnacle 4 then is the month reduced down plus the year reduced down. So 1 plus 4 equals 5. So these are the pinnacles for somebody born on the 29th of the 10th, 1975. 3695. So pinnacle 1. So when it's your first pinnacle, not only when it's your first pinnacle, if your first pinnacle is a 1, you're very much about through your childhood up to your early adulthood. It's all about learning about original ideas, how to lead, how to be independent and rely on yourself. So you probably had to do that a lot as a youngster. Very independent to a fault, don't like people helping you. So you were probably quick to dress yourself. You were probably quick to eat for yourself. You were probably quick to demand that you do it your way, which is very in the 1 pinnacle. And you would have had that from your childhood right up to that early adulthood. So you'd be independent to a fault, and that your mind will be very innovative, big imagination, great for new ideas and new beginnings. You must have had you would have had issues during your young life when it comes to either over or underachievement. So the energy of the 1 very much encapsulates, like the 8 really, the idea of achievement, or the polarity of achievement, either overachieving or underachieving, and trying to find that balance between the two. So there may be issues with overachievement, working too hard, being a bit obsessed with it, or underachievement, underachieving and like being underconfident, which is very much a Pinnacle 1 thing, being underconfident and running away from achievement in its entirety. You begin ventures a lot in your Pinnacle 1. You're very productive, or you're very underconfident. You clarify your goals when you're at your best, and you like to start ASAP. The Pinnacle 1 isn't about hanging around. So your Pinnacle 1, through your childhood to early adulthood, if it was Pinnacle 1, and remember, I keep mentioning it as your Pinnacle 1. It might not be your Pinnacle 1, it might be your Pinnacle 3, so I should stop going on about early childhood and adulthood. So whichever section of your life the Pinnacle 1 is, it can be either early childhood or later in life. So I'll clarify that, sorry people. Your Pinnacle 1 can be anywhere in your life, and I keep reverting it to Pinnacle 1, the first pinnacle, but it's not. It's about where that pinnacle lasts in your life. I should really cut this bit out, but I probably won't. Anyway, so in your Pinnacle 1, not necessarily your first pinnacle, but you could have a 1 anywhere in your life. I know I'm keeping on. Okay. You will begin ventures, you're productive, clarifying goals when you're at your best. It's a time of change, progress, new beginnings, overall underconfidence, as I said. Some people in their 1 energy can be really, really overconfident, or they can drop to being really, really low in confidence. What you're looking for is to try and that balance confidence. Breaking free from current conditions is very much about the Pinnacle 1. You'll very much want to do something new and change what is already happening in your world or the world around you. You're courageous, you like to take risks, and you're brave with it. You'll stand strong and tall against any adversity. You seek out new opportunities, very high energy. Take advantage, take a risk. Sometimes you might get yourself in a bit of trouble because you're a bit of a risk taker. Some people, you might put people's backs up a bit because you might be a bit forward, a bit blunt. But that's a Pinnacle 1 thing. It's an energy. It wants you to go, 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 go. And sometimes, there's beating about the bush and there's being blunt. And sometimes beating about the bush doesn't work. You just got to be blunt. But it's the way you put it across in that 1 pinnacle that really makes the difference, whether you serve that honesty with a hammer or whether you serve it on a plate. You know what I mean. Try not to be too impulsive in your Pinnacle 1, because you are a bit of a risk taker. You'll like lots of different study options in your Pinnacle 1. You're a bit of a risk taker, but make sure those risks are calculated. Don't be impulsive. What am I talking? Impulsive? Don't be impulsive. Choose your options carefully. Broaden your interests. Do new things. Seek out new opportunities. Like I said, it's a high energy time to act. Maybe hard work. You might be a bit of a workaholic or work too hard in your Pinnacle 1. Assertive. You command respect. You're not someone to be trifled with in your Pinnacle 1. You're courageous and strong, sometimes overly strong at times. And you'll get your point across. You have strong leadership skills, and you will fight for justice. You're not going to let anybody bring you down, walk on you, or stop you from saying what you need to say. So that's the general conditions if you are in a Pinnacle 1, whether it's your first pinnacle or your 2, 3 or 4. The only time I would relate it to any particular pinnacle is the first and the last. So what I meant at the beginning of this bit was, in your first pinnacle, your childhood is very much about new ideas, leading, relying on yourself, being independent, doing things for yourself, and liking new beginnings and innovation. And it's similar if it was any other pinnacle, I guess, but I suppose you'll notice it more because of your exploratory childhood. Anyway, so Pinnacle 2, wherever it is in your road of life, whether it's your first, second, third or fourth pinnacle. It does confuse it, doesn't it, when I say Pinnacle 2, but what I mean is the energy of the 2. So it's a lower energy time. You're in the background. So you may not have had a Pinnacle 1 before this, but whatever Pinnacle before this may have been higher energy. But in this Pinnacle, whether it's the first one or the 9-year ones, it's a lower energy Pinnacle. So it's quite a period of time for you to be waiting, planning, slowly developing, and waiting for things to mature. It's very much like tending a plant. A long-range plant that takes a long time to grow. You look after it daily, you water it, you feed it, you make sure it's in the right conditions, you make plans for its future to make sure it's going to be okay over the winter, make plans so it doesn't get too hot over the summer, so it lives, so that the idea or whatever it is that's happening is nurtured, or the person could be nurtured. There are many ways to nurture and plan. So prepare for delays. It's a slower, less energetic time period. Patience may be needed, or it's a time for relaxation, relationships. And as I said, looking at what you've already created, or looking at what is already there in your life and nurturing what is already there. Keep the peace. You won't like confrontations when you're in a 2 energy of a Pinnacle. You really, the 2, that they just so sensitive in that. You're going to be so sensitive in that Pinnacle that, like, confrontations, family arguments, or arguments between friends or co-workers is going to be difficult for you, and you'll end up having to deal with the conflict of others and try and not get involved yourself. Maybe even putting up a front of nicety to outwit others, to try and pull yourself away from the conflict at hand. That's very much the energy if you're in a Pinnacle 2. Forced actions will not be so constructive. Aggression causes problems in a 2 Pinnacle. It's just not the energy for that. You're going to do a lot of service. You'll end up giving your time to other people, furthering another person's work or goals, and you might not always get a thanks for that. So that could be to do with family or friends or even community. You might be doing a lot for your community at that time, and you might not always get the recognition that you deserve. But if you're highly developed in the 2 energy, you'll be less likely to care about whether people recognize you for your work. But in this Pinnacle, you might care if someone doesn't say thank you or please. I mean, it's an everyday thing for a person to want. But how deeply that affects you will depend on your development level. You'll work with others really well in a Pinnacle 2. Keep emotions in balance while you're trying to cooperate with others, because tact is needed in a Pinnacle 2, and that's the energy that is provided. You're considerate, you emphasize harmony. You might have a bit of difficulty with nervous tension and self-control, so try and keep those emotions at a calm level today. Don't let your senses today in this Pinnacle, don't let your emotions take over you. In your Pinnacle 2, you might become really interested in music. It might be something that's either was present in if it's your Pinnacle 1, it might have been in your childhood, or you might only awaken it in your 3rd or your 4th Pinnacle if you have a Pinnacle 2. But you might reawaken an interest in music and rhythm, and might socialise in a musical setting. If it's your first Pinnacle, if your first Pinnacle is a 2, you can be quite a sensitive young and quite shy, easily hurt, easily frightened. You might be too shy to express in your younger life. You might have to develop out of your shyness and out of your shell. Your mother is important. There might be some absence with the father figure. If the 2 is your 4th Pinnacle, retirement is possible. It's a very relaxed, nurturing energy, and it's harmonious, and it shows that your retirement and your latter years are going to be very relaxed and harmonious. So that is a great thing. So number 3. So if your Pinnacle 3 is your first Pinnacle, that was me, opportunities to develop that you'll have when you're young, artistic and creative abilities, acting, singing, speaking, writing. Well, I was a big mouth. I was always talking, always getting in trouble at school, and that was my 3 Pinnacle. And it was my young life, really. I used to love acting and singing, used to be a bit of a wah. And I was very high energy, very dynamic, as what you would expect from a 3, and always in trouble and sometimes irresponsible because it was my 3 pinnacle, and that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. I was scattered, still am, actually. I still am a bit scattered because of my life path and my expression number. But in my Pinnacle 3, even more so, all I wanted to do was go out and play and have adventures. School really got on my nerves, and I was a bit of a gobby one, you know. So you're quite, not saying you're going to be like me in your Pinnacle 3, but you're more of an energetic child. You like to sing and perform and chat. You might get yourself in trouble a bit, sometimes do a few irresponsible things, but that's childhood. But that goes all the way up to, depending on your life path, late 20s, early 30s. So you like to hope that responsibility levels gets better as you get older. Not with everyone, but... So during your 3 pinnacle, whether it's your first, second, third or fourth, discipline and the practice of your passions will help you to become well-rounded. And a balanced, happy person. And I mean discipline with what you do. So if you're an artist, have discipline. Make sure you do the art. If you're an athlete, discipline yourself. Be that athlete. Train, practice. I mean, if it's your passion, of course, that's what you need to do. Put some discipline into it, because sometimes the 3 pinnacle can be a little bit lazy, a bit of a procrastinator. You can be in the Pinnacle 3, or on the other side of the scale you can be a real go-getter. Depends where you are on the polarity. So you'll feel the need to express yourself with heartfelt emotion to edify others and build networks. So that could be a speaker, a motivational speaker, an actor, a singer, a performer on any level, even a physical performer, an artist, a creative artist. However you express yourself with your body, your words or your art, that is very much about the Pinnacle 3. It's a light-hearted time. It's very social. My Pinnacle 3 was really much about laughing with my friends, being carefree. There was stuff going on in my life, like there are in a lot of kids' lives, but the energy that really permeated was my 3 energy, which was my first pinnacle, which doesn't surprise me at all when I found that out. So your social skills are excellent. Well, I had a big group of friends, but we fought a lot. There was a lot of turbulence. I mean, I don't know about charisma, but people knew that I was in the room. I'm not necessarily always very happy about that situation, but always laughing. I've always been friendly and affectionate, especially when I was young. Still am to a certain extent. Verbal expression, I was always talking, acting, singing, blabbing, getting myself in trouble. Anyway, when unbalanced, you want to be taken care of and supported, making you irresponsible, which is very much a 3 energy. Unwilling to take responsibility, spoiled, in need of guidance. I mean, when I talk about all these elements of our pinnacles, our life path and our expression influences that a lot. So there are some elements in my Pinnacle 3 that I don't really relate to, because my life path is a 7. I'm very, very independent. So the bit about being wanted to take care of and supported has never really been something that I thought, because of the independence of my life path shone through too much. So when I give you these points, it's not necessarily going to be strongly for you. It depends on your other numbers in your chart. This is, remember, just the general conditions of your pinnacle. And it's not necessarily and hard and fast how you're going to behave. Other numbers are taken into account when it comes to your core. So your issues stem from difficulty in expressing your words. In your 3rd pinnacle, you may have been overly shy. You may have even been born with a speech impediment, maybe. That's more for life path 3s, but it is possible. Your issues stem from being shy and scared of emotional expression. Difficulty in expressing your words, expressing your emotions appropriately. For me, it's pronunciation of words, you may have noticed. Relationships are a bit of a challenge, especially any that take long-term commitment. I met my partner while I was in my Pinnacle 3, and it took me a while to deal with the fact that I wasn't single anymore and my life wasn't my own. And it was quite a transition for me. One, because I'm a life path 7, and 2, because I was in my Pinnacle 3. So it was something I had to work through, because the energies were all so strong when it came to making a commitment. Whoa. Have a jealous streak, can cause conflicts. Yeah, when I was a kid, I was a bit like that, but I guess we all were a little bit to a certain extent. If your Pinnacle 3 is the 4th area of your life, if your Pinnacle 3 is your Pinnacle 4, you know what I mean? Retirement is possible, but you'll have a lot of opportunities to travel and socialise. So you're not going to be a sit-down older person. You're going to be retiring in style, socialising, travelling, getting out there. You're not going to waste your retirement if your Pinnacle 3 is your last pinnacle. Pinnacle 4. So if Pinnacle 4 is your first pinnacle, your childhood up to early adulthood, it's quite a demanding time for you. So you might have had to have been quite a hard-working child. You may have to deal with economic limitations or feelings of not having enough. You may have had parents who always talked about not having enough money, and you felt that you didn't have enough money in your family for what you needed. It might have been a time where you had little time to take care of your childhood. It was more about work. You may have been involved in a family business where you've had to work from a young age. And all the way from your young life, if it's your first pinnacle from your childhood, you were good at working with your hands, whether it be with food or other materials like wood or crafts. You've always been very good at working with your hands. If it's your last pinnacle, you're focused on practical, not if it's your last pinnacle. Shut up, Katie. I'm going to start that again. In your 4 pinnacle, you are focused. You are practical, not just because if it's your last one, whatever pinnacle that lands, you're going to be focused, you're going to be practical, you're going to be realistic. Activities and solutions, order, organisation, conscientious hard work, being dependable, seeking out responsibility and fulfilling it, hard work and effort. So wherever your Pinnacle 4 is, it's going to be a time of hard work and doing the right thing for other people. You're focused on security and stability in your Pinnacle 4, whether it's your first or your last. Always wanting to follow a plan, a process, a procedure with persistence, obedience. You like rules, you like tight discipline during this time. You show organisational and leadership skills. You're quite a stoic character in your Pinnacle 4, and there's going to be a lot of things happening to you where you have to work hard to overcome them. It can be quite a hard time in a Pinnacle 4. You may reach the top of your school or profession, depending on where you are, where your Pinnacle 4 is. If it's your first pinnacle, you might do very well at school. If it's your second or third or even 4th pinnacle, it might be career success. Building a business that hits success in whatever pinnacle it is in. You might be a bit narrow-minded, a bit conventional. Some people in their Pinnacle 4 might turn to religion and find security in established doctrine, preferring to parrot other people's beliefs, especially if it makes them feel secure or stable. You're efficient, you're economical, you're rational in financial matters. It's a time where you'll be good with money. You're not much of a spendthrift. You like to ferret the money away for a rainy day. Take control of the detail, put everything in order, prepare, organise, meet your obligations. Progress might be slow in your Pinnacle 4, but you've got to keep plugging away with persistence, keep working. There'll always be in that whole environment will be an environment of getting things done step by step. The tortoise and the hare, just keep going. When Pinnacle 4 is your last pinnacle, okay, say it in a more clear way. When Pinnacle 4 is your last pinnacle, you might not necessarily feel that you can retire. So if your Pinnacle 4 is your last pinnacle, you might feel the need to work right up until you can't work anymore. because either you have economic limitation or you're worried about economic limitation. So if number 4 is your last pinnacle, ensure that you don't work yourself too hard. Allow yourself some time to rest, and don't rule out the idea of retirement and relaxation. Okay, Pinnacle 5. So the energy of the 5. If the 5 is in your first pinnacle, you love excitement. You're an excitable child. You love variety and change. New things, new people are coming to visit. New toys are in the house, or you go to a play date and there's all these different toys to look at, and there's this different garden to look at, and let's go and explore the area. Very much the exploring child. You're not much for building stability or listen to rules or worrying about anything that's boring to you. You like change, and that's the sort of young person that you are, all the way up to the end of your first pinnacle, which can be late 20s, early 30s. So in a 5 pinnacle, wherever it is in your life, first, second, third or fourth period of your life, important changes are going to be likely during that period. So, and the result of those changes will depend on how you adapt and how you deal with it as a person. Be ready to take advantage of changes and use them to your advantage during this period. Sudden, unexpected change might happen, variety, new experience. You might have a time where you get to visit a load more places, or you might do a job where you're meeting new people, going new places, or you're dealing with a job that is high change. No day is the same, and you love that because that's your 5 pinnacle, especially if 5 is in your core as well. That'll enhance that. You're a risk taker, so sometimes you can take scary risks. You have a hard time staying in one place and committing to one thing, so you might struggle to commit to a career in this pinnacle. You might struggle to commit to people in your life in this pinnacle. Uncompromising demand for freedom in thought and action. You make up your own mind. You won't be controlled. You won't be forced to do anything. You know, it's your way or the highway in your 5 pinnacle. You're socially progressive. You're very live and let live, and tolerant, charming, charismatic, good sense of humour. Others feel comfortable around you in your 5 pinnacle. You'll move away from routines and repetitive detail work. That is not something that you will go for in a 5 pinnacle. That might be toned down a bit depending on your core numbers in your chart, but normally in your pinnacle 5 you're not going to be toned down to any kind of repetitive detail routine, get up at the same day every day, blah 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 blah. I know the energy of the 5. It's my expression number, and I've always avoided routine and repetitive work no matter what pinnacle I'm in. But if I was in a 5 pinnacle, it'd be even stronger. You're restless and impulsive. You need to take care not to scatter yourself too much. The 5 energy does need to focus itself down every so often, because it can be so changeable that there's no basis or security at all. On the downside, in your 5 pinnacle, you could be selfish, thoughtless, irresponsible, lacking in discipline. Consequences are not considered by you. You might procrastinate a little, unreliable, need for instant gratification, very much sex, drugs and alcohol, high sugar foods, junk food, anything that makes you feel good. If the pinnacle 5 is your last pinnacle, it's not going to, your life, you're not going to focus on retirement. You're going to always want to be doing new things and going to new places. You might not even consider retirement at all. You might continue working right through. You're going to travel right through. You're always going to be full of energy, but you're certainly not going to be one for sitting in a chair watching daytime television. And you might not even retire at all. And if you do, you're going to be a very energetic retired person. Your life will always be in flux, especially in that 4th pinnacle, at a time where some people need to relax. It's not going to be a time of relaxation in your last pinnacle if your pinnacle is 5. Excuse me, my coffee is getting cold. So, if the energy of the pinnacle 6 is your first pinnacle, you'll start your life from childhood to early adulthood with a lot of responsibility, a lot of duty, home, family, community. You'll do a lot for your home and family. You might have a lot of responsibilities at home. Some young people are young carers. You know, there's a great diversity of responsibility throughout people's home lives. Feelings of limitation. It's going to be very much about giving and receiving love in your childhood. Slower pace, you're harmonious with a loving, caring nature, loving, caring family and community. If Pinnacle 6 is any one of your pinnacles throughout of the 4 chunks of your life, you're going to be more idealistic in your 6th pinnacle, maybe judgmental of others, self-righteous sometimes, full of self-doubt, bit of anxiety, insecurity. You might even manifest a few phobias from worry, panic attacks and OCD. So it's quite a time that you can panic a lot and worry a lot. In your Pinnacle 6, you are respected. People like you. You're well liked. You create an environment of peace and harmony. You're the kind of person that brings everyone round for coffee and cakes and everyone loves it. The Pinnacle 6, you're like the hostess of the family or the community. Everyone wants to come around to your house for some cookies and juice. That sounds like we're all kids, but you know what I mean. Opportunities to help others will really happen in your 6th pinnacle. So not only will you be caring and teaching and advising, there'll always be opportunities coming up in a 6th pinnacle to teach and counsel and guide other people, healing, protecting. You're like the stable mother stereotype. Guard against doing too much for others though, because when you look after other people, sometimes you can do a bit too much and end up meddling in people's lives to the point where they don't need you to keep meddling, or end up being a doormat doing too much for other people. You might make sacrifices for others in your 6th pinnacle, service of helping family and friends, maybe even the vulnerable. You might want to work for a charity, looking after those that are vulnerable, or working with people in schools or in the community that are vulnerable. Work in harmony, resolve tensions with other people, be unselfish, give love. Romance and affection is very much about the Pinnacle 6. The building of families, the building of relationships is very much a Pinnacle 6 thing. Your sense of justice is well developed. When you perceive injustice, you'll set things straight. You know, you don't like to see people being treated unjustly. So if Pinnacle 6 is your last pinnacle, retirement is possible and you get all the pleasures of home. So think about relaxing in your community with your family around you. So if 6 is your last pinnacle, expect a very relaxing, family, community orientated retirement, which is lovely. Pinnacle 7. Excuse me, my coffee's going to go cold. Right. If Pinnacle 7 is your first pinnacle from childhood to early adulthood, you would have been a very quiet, shy and introspective young person. You might have been quite happy not to have friends, but you may have worried and had difficulty and feel that you had a lack of friends when you were younger. Difficulty maybe getting education because of parental pressures. That could have been the issue when you were young. Or you could have been pressured into study when you were too young. So it's very much about the polarity of studying and learning. So you could have been removed from education or lost your education, or you could be pressured for lots and lots of education in your childhood if Pinnacle 7 was your first pinnacle. And you would have been quite a quiet, introspective child, not necessarily interested in or good at socializing with other people. But if Pinnacle 7 is any of your other pinnacles, you'll want more time alone to be a seeker, whether it's your 2nd, 3rd, 4th or 1st, whichever pinnacle it is. You like time alone. You're a seeker, you're a learner, you're a thinker, always researching, trying to understand hidden truths, metaphysical subjects, and gaining self-understanding. It's a very quiet pinnacle. You find yourself to be, and in the conditions of, an intellectual explorer of the mystical, the person who tends to have a slightly different perspective of the world around us. I'm a life path 7. I do get that. You know, I often disagree what goes on in the world. Good job I don't rule the world, because I'm not saying I'm right in everything I think, but I often think differently to what other people think, because it is the 7 energy to be a bit independent and a bit different in your thinking, and this might happen quite a lot in your 7 Pinnacle. You'll have a desire, of course you will, to study, research, maybe even teach, write. You have an intellectual, mystical energy about you. You may overanalyze a little bit in your 7 Pinnacle though. Put too much faith in the logical, rational mind and overthink everything. And in this Pinnacle, it's good to have more faith in your gut feelings, your intuition and your spirituality. If something feels right or wrong, don't overthink it. Don't change your mind with logic and ration. Follow your intuition, your gut feelings, your emotions. They're all messages from your soul's intuition. Don't force results in this Pinnacle. It's not going to be a Pinnacle where you're going to be up for achieving loads of things and getting up every day and doing loads and loads and loads of things. It's more about self-study, inward development, studying for future possibilities, maybe getting ready for a future Pinnacle. Money means nothing to you really. You know, as long as you've got enough food in your belly and clothes on your back and warmth and a roof over your head, you're happy. You're not really a shopaholic or someone that likes to go out and buy material things in your Pinnacle 7. Yeah, that's it. You don't like making decisions based on money. So you won't do a job because of how much it pays you. You will do a job in this Pinnacle, or, well, depending on where the Pinnacle is, you might not if it's a retirement Pinnacle, or it might be your first one, but if it's just your 2nd or 3rd Pinnacle especially, that's it, I've forgotten what I was saying. You won't take a job that is because of how much money you earn. The job you do will always link back to your inner development. It's got to mean something to you. Your job needs to have purpose. So in your 7 Pinnacle and Life Path 7s and Expression 7s aren't necessarily going to do or take a job that money is their only motivation. It's got to be to do with passion and purpose. Otherwise, it just will not fulfill you in a 7 Pinnacle. Okay. You're never really truly comfortable in social settings in your Pinnacle 7. You've got a dry sense of humour. Sometimes you can be a bit misunderstood and come across as aloof. You're very emotional in your Pinnacle 7, but you might come across as aloof and being misunderstood by others. You have a sense of humour, but you can also be a bit eccentric, and sometimes people can't figure you out in your 7 Pinnacle. Sometimes you can be a bit unpopular. You know, not everyone will take to you with your eccentric, quite blunt, straightforward, slightly weird manner about you. Some people will be drawn to you, some people won't, like with anything else. You can be cynical, and if you get angry, you can be quite verbally abusive in your 7 Pinnacle, arrogant, oblivious of the pain and suffering of others, cold-hearted, cruel. Again, it depends. All the elements of your Pinnacle 7 will be stronger or weaker depending on the numbers of your core. If you don't have 7 in your core, you might be less cold-hearted and less cruel, and you might only be a bit like that if you have a 7 Pinnacle. But it very much depends on the other numbers in your chart. If the Pinnacle 7 is your last Pinnacle of your life, it's going to be a quiet retirement, maybe a bit lonely if you haven't built relationships prior. You'll be very much developing your inner self. You will spend a lot of time on your own, and you might find it difficult to find comfortable companions in life because of this. Oh, 43 minutes. This is a long video. So, Pinnacle 8. So if Pinnacle 8 is your first Pinnacle from childhood to young adulthood, you're going to be involved in business from quite a young age. You would have been a young entrepreneur, whether it be involved in your family business or whether you were the kind of kid who liked to buy multi-packs of sweets and then split them up and sell them for more than you bought them for. Very entrepreneurial. Lots of schools stopped that happening. because they worry about what might happen. But do you know what? It does show the entrepreneurial skill that some young people have that I think should be nurtured and encouraged, but isn't always nurtured and encouraged. But anyway, soap box folded away. So you might be involved in business. You're going to be very much about making money from a young age. You might even be a bit of a young Del boy, but a good Del boy, not somebody that I don't want to say that word because that's a swear word, not somebody that does bad to others. You know, you've got a lot of integrity, but you might buy and sell, you might run business, whether it's through the family or whether it's yourself. You might have feelings of restriction about like money and power. Sometimes you might be a bit over powerful to other people in your first pinnacle or when you're a child, or sometimes people might bully and walk all over you. You will the polarity in the Pinnacle 8 is very much about abundance or lack of, and it's about personal power, too strong or too weak, status, recognition, ethics, looking after others, using your abundance to look after others. So if it's from your first pinnacle, like your childhood to young adulthood, you're going to be very much involved in business, buying, selling, making money. It's always something that you've been good at. Okay, so if Pinnacle 8 is anywhere else in your life, second, third, or first, second, third, or last pinnacle, an emphasis is going to be on career, even if it's in your fourth area of your life. Business, finances, and authority. Focused on money very much in your 8th pinnacle. It's not that you care loads about money and you want to put it in pots and like hug it. You're not greedy or money hungry or anything, and you don't sit and stare at your money in display boxes. It's a tool to you, not an end result. So you use your money to help nurture other people in your life and help them find success. So it's very much in the Pinnacle 8 about making money and then using that money to support other people. Ideas that you may have had for ages are going to come to fruition in this pinnacle. Ultimate action and accomplishment is going to be very much the order of the day in your 8th pinnacle. You'll have drive, you'll have more ambition, balanced authority. Sometimes you might be, though, too powerful, and sometimes you might be walked on. But what you need to do in your Pinnacle 8 is try and find that balance of personal power. Lead with discipline and control. Exude authority, but not too strong or too weak. So you have a balance of personal power and inner confidence that makes people listen to you. Because when you're confident inside, others listen to you, right? Diplomatic, understanding of human nature, very developed sense of socializing and understanding of other people, inner self-confidence, risk taker, but calculated risks. You don't take silly risks. You have good judgment. At your best, you're as spiritual as you are materialistic. I mean, you're here to deal with the money of life and the abundance of life, but you can be just as spiritual, which means you're thinking of others and thinking of the collective consciousness and using your abundance to help the collective consciousness. That is the split between the materialism and the spiritualism in your 8th pinnacle. It's a high energy pinnacle, very hard working. You could end up a bit of a workaholic. Ensure you take rest breaks from the high energy of the action. In the negative, in your Pinnacle 8, you're going to be overly focused on money maybe, or sometimes you can be like overly averted to money. It's about building abundance or not. So it's the polarity. You could be money obsessed, or you could just totally want nothing to do with money. Or if you're doing well, you're somewhere in between and you're healthy ideas about money. So you could be overly focused on money and success, or lazy with no interest in earning money at all, or you can be overly dominating or overly submissive with very little personal power. You may be hungry for status and recognition, or you may hide yourself away. In the middle of that would be, not caring what people think of you, just helping other people and being a good influence on others. If the 8 is your last pinnacle of your life, you may retire, but it's likely to be partial. You're forever the worker, forever the business person. Lots of attention to business and commercial, even in your last pinnacle of life. You might be looking at the business pages of a newspaper on the day you die. you know. Last pinnacle, pinnacle 9. So if pinnacle 9 is your first pinnacle, there's going to be some, and this is childhood to young adulthood, there might be some difficult endings in your young life related to school, work, or love. You might have to move around a lot as you grew up. You might have lost people or a lot of people in your life as you were growing up. Very emotional time in that childhood up to early adulthood, emotions and drama. It could have been quite a turbulent young life for you if you had a pinnacle 9 as your first pinnacle. But if you have a pinnacle 9 in any other area of your life, you're still a very loving, more empathetic person, no matter what pinnacle you're in. Or what section of your life you're in, your first, second, third, or fourth. Loving and empathetic, emotional, but quite regal. You know, nobody walks on you. You know, they know where they stand with you. Hard to reach. You keep people at arm's length in this pinnacle. Tend to float above small-minded issues and watch the plebs below. Excuse my language. People respect you because you have that aura of respect about you, but the conditions of that time is going to be, things are going to end for you sometimes, and you're going to have to deal with loss and emotions and drama. So that is if it was any pinnacle of your life. You've always had a global consciousness. You're a humanitarian. You see no real difference between those close to you and those far. That's why those close to you sometimes feel you are distant, because you think of those distant as well as far as well. You know, there's no difference to you whether someone lives in a far off land or whether there's someone in your community or even your family. You're very tolerant in your pinnacle 9, compassionate, very unjudgmental, the least judgmental of all your pinnacles you'll be in your 9. You give love with no expectation of return. You're a powerful, strong, assertive, confident force in your pinnacle 9, strong enough to bend others to your will with your leadership skills. People just follow you like the Piper of Hamelin. Completion, tying up loose ends. There's a lot of endings in this pinnacle. So completion, tying up loose ends, chucking things out of your life that no longer serve you. Getting rid of the old, rid yourself of any emotions that you've collected through the years, victimhood, transform from the person you were to something better, to something bigger, move on, prepare for the new. Release upset and grudges at this time. You might be holding on to upset and grudges in your pinnacle 9, stopping you from moving forwards with anything, and you need to release that. Don't fight endings at this time. The pinnacle 9 is about finishing, tying up loose ends, completion, ending. Don't fight loose ends at this time. Important change is coming. So, you know, don't fight change in your pinnacle 9. Don't take anything with you from your pinnacle 9 that you don't want to take into your next pinnacle. Okay, so it's about ending things in your life that really shouldn't still be there. Don't take anything with you that won't serve you in your next pinnacle, pretty much. Don't start anything new yet, because it might end prematurely. Remember, this is endings. This is creating the void, ready for your next pinnacle, or ready for your next action. But you have a dark side in the pinnacle 9. You can be a bit condescending and arrogant in your pinnacle 9, cold, apathetic towards the suffering of others at times, even though you are a humanitarian. This often stems from a victim mentality. So as I said, in a 9 pinnacle, you can struggle to let go of things that have happened before because of a victim mentality, perceived injustice towards you. And then sometimes you even go so far as using it as a justification for actions that are not quite so good towards another person. If the 9 energy is your last and final pinnacle, you're a very philanthropic, I love that word, very philanthropic older person, artistic. You might delve yourself into the artistic things in life when you retire, endeavours, give the world partial. I've just read that like a stupid woman. So you're very philanthropic, you're very artistic, very relaxed. You want to give to the world, so you might still do things for charities in your retirement. So your retirement's going to be partial, because you might like go abroad and do things for other people, help people build water wells in areas where they don't have running water, etc., etc. So if the 9 is your last pinnacle, there might be some partial retirement, but you're also going to be doing a lot for other people, maybe going even farther overseas to help people that are more vulnerable than you. So I know at the start of the video I kept saying first pinnacle, fourth pinnacle. Right, so your life is split into the 4 chunks, and I call it first, second, third, fourth. But then there are 9 pinnacles that can dominate each of those areas of your life. Oh, I really, really hate pop-ups that come up into my life. So sorry if I confused you at the start of the video. All our lives are split into 4 to simplify, and these 4 areas of our lives can be dominated by any pinnacle 1 through 9. Okay, so I hope I've clarified that and I didn't confuse you at the start of this video. Please leave any comments about my garbled delivery of this video if you feel that it's too long, because I've been garbling for nearly an hour. But if you have any questions about what I've said during this video, please contact me. You can contact me through my email, through my website, or through the links to my social media, which I'll put in the description box. I'm also going to put a link to my Udemy course on numerology that I've uploaded. I will eventually put another one on there, but there's a lot of work involved in the master course and I want to make sure it's perfect. So look at the link on my Udemy course if you want to learn a lot more about numerology. If not, you can contact me through my website, email, or through these that I'm going to put in the description box. So as ever, guys, I want you to trust your own intuition, only yourself. If your gut and your emotions says it, do it. Don't let anybody or your own mind stop you. Your intuition should be your master. See you soon.